everyone, welcome to Leandra's Corner. I'm Leandra. Today I'll be talking about the first book in the Zodiac Academy series, which is called The Awakening, written by Susan Valenti and Caroline Peckham. I'm going to give a short summary, but it will include a lot of spoilers. So, be warned about that. I'll be talking only about the first book today. I'm planning to make a video about each book. I've read 6 so far, and I'm reading the 7th book. I'm about halfway through the book right now. But I thought it would be weird if I just started making a video about the 7th book, so I'm going to make a video about each book I've read and give you my thoughts on it and my opinion and what I loved about it or what I didn't love about it. So without further ado, here it is. Okay, I will be watching my laptop a lot because I've written down some notes. So yeah, if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. First book, The Awakening. It's about Tori and Darcy Vega, who are twins, and they're also Geminis. So they're two very different girls. Tori is badass, she's a no-nonsense girl. She's really mouthy and she steals motorcycles. And then there's Darcy, who is kind, she's patient, and she has a gentle soul. So they do what they have to do to survive in poverty. They've lived from foster family to foster family. Nobody's ever really loved them or taken care for them. And so they're almost 18, and so they're taking care of themselves right now, basically living in poverty. They found a really small, shitty apartment where they're living at the moment. As they can't rely on anybody else, that's what they're doing at the moment. They take care of themselves. So Darcy sells stuff that her classmates don't need anymore, and Tori is stealing really cool, sporty motorbikes, and she's selling them. So that's how they come around. And then one day, a man named Orion finds Tori, goes up to her, and then introduces himself. He's a professor at a school called Zodiac Academy, and he basically tells the girls that they're fae, they're also princesses, their parents were the king and queen, and they died. And they're basically from a whole different parallel universe called Solaria, and so they're basically heir to the throne. So he's inviting them to come with him to go to Zodiac Academy so they can learn their powers and learn what it's like to be fae and learn everything about their world, basically. So they get to Zodiac Academy on Solaria, this parallel universe. They get there by stardust traveling, which is really cool. They arrive on the day of The Awakening, which is basically an event where when fae become 18, they get access to their powers and they go through this whole process so they can learn which elemental powers they possess. So air, water, earth, or fire. Usually fae only have 1 or maybe 2 elemental powers, but, and here come the spoilers already, the twins have 4 elemental powers, so they have all of them, which this makes them super powerful when they eventually get control of their powers and stuff. So, but there are 4 boys. They're called Darius Acrux, who is a dragon shifter. Then there's Caleb Altair, who is a vampire. There's Seth Capella, a werewolf, and Max, I think it's Rigel, but I always read Regal in my head. Max Regal, Max Rigel, who knows. He's a siren. And they are 4 celestial heirs. What does this mean? Well, they are the heirs to their parents, who are in the Celestial Council. And the Celestial Council was the council that was aiding the king and queen with advice and stuff, I'm assuming. But so then when the king and queen died, the council was the only thing remaining. So they are the authority now, basically. They are ruling over the kingdom. And so the celestial heirs were trained from a very young age to become heir to the throne, basically. So, of course, when the twin girls come into view, they get threatened by them. Not only because, well, they're the real heirs to the throne. But they possess 4 elemental powers, 4 elemental powers, and the celestial heirs only have 2. So, the twins are not interested in ruling and not interested in the throne at all, because, well, they know nothing about the whole world to begin with, but they also heard that even if they wouldn't be interested in taking the throne, they would receive like a sum of money because they are the children of the king and queen. So that's like enough for them. If they are like out of poverty and they're free to do whatever they want, basically, that's enough for them. But then the celestial heirs, they torment them and they bully them, and after a while the twins become really irritated by them and they start entertaining the thought of maybe we should try to go after the throne, maybe if only if it's to piss off these celestial heirs. So they're beginning to think like maybe we should try to take the throne. Oh yeah, the celestial heirs force the twins to split up when they choose their house. So there's 4 houses for each element. So there's the house of air, of fire, of earth, and of water. Normally you get to pick a house based on which elemental powers you have, but as the twins have all 4, they get their pick of the 4 houses. And so they have to split up because otherwise, I think the celestial heirs gave like a stupid excuse of otherwise the power is if they both pick the same house, all the powers in the same house, and the power wouldn't be divided, and I don't know, it was some bullshit excuse. So Darcy picks air, and Tori picked fire. Each house has a captain, and you can maybe already guess who the captains are of these houses. Yeah, so the celestial heirs are the captains of the houses. So the girls are never safe from any of the heirs. The twins also get a liaison or a mentor, which is there to help them understand more of the Fey world, I guess, and of their powers, and so they get the same knowledge as their classmates have, because they know nothing. They come from Earth. They have no knowledge of this whole Fey kingdom. So Darcy's mentor is Professor Orion, their cardinal magic professor, and Tori doesn't really chat with her assigned liaison. She prefers to email her, but then she's pushed by her fire professor to train with Darius, the dragon shifter, and then Darius becomes her mentor to train her and control her powers of fire. The whole mentality of Fae is basically prey on the weak. If you're stronger than a certain Fae, you're allowed to torment them or like fight them or challenge them in any way, basically. And also never back down from a fight. When someone challenges you, you should take them on one-on-one and not like a whole group versus only one person. So they fight fair, or they should fight fair. And so this mentality results in Professor Orion, who, by the way, he's a vampire. He bites Tori in his class, which angers Caleb, because Caleb, when the heirs met the twins, Caleb attacked Tori, bit her, fed on her, and claimed her as his source, which means that no other vampire is allowed to bite or feed from her. And he gets in a fight with Professor Orion. Yeah, it's a whole vampire rivalry thing. And so at that moment, Professor Orion decides to claim Darcy as his source, as they're both as strong. Because the more powerful a Fae is, the better they taste for a vampire. So he decides on Tori. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that he's attracted to her. Not at all. The heirs torment and bully the twins constantly. But there's this one time Seth gets really close to Darcy, and Darcy thinks that they're getting close and they're becoming friends, but then eventually he cuts off her blue hair, and Tori is almost drowned in a pool. And this all happens because they used Max's siren gifts to find out what the twins' fears were. And so they used the girls' fears against them to to torment them basically, because they wanted the twins out of Zodiac Academy, back to Earth, out of the picture basically. That was really horrible what they did, by the way. And then also in the meanwhile, the twins make friends. I think they met Sophia on the first day of school, and then they become friends with Diego, Hat Boy, which is his nickname. And they also have this little iPad thing. Every student, every teacher, everyone in the Zodiac Academy has a kind of iPad thingy where they can communicate with each other, and they get anonymous messages from a person called Falling Star, I think, helping them out. So they send them messages to help out. They want to know who this is. Eventually they meet up and they see that it's one of their professors. It was Professor Astrom, who is their astrology professor. And on the day that Darcy got her haircut and Tori almost drowned in the pool, until Orion saved her, by the way. That day, they found the body of Professor Astrom burned to a crisp. And everyone assumes that the dragon did it. So they're basically suspecting Darius of doing this. So that's kind of where the whole first book is about. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, there's also this royalist group. They call themselves the Ass Club. The acronym is ASS, and the leader is Geraldine. And in the first book, I'm okay with Geraldine's personality, but she's really, really, to me at least, cringe. She's very cringe. And she uses very, very silly vocabulary. And in the first book, I could handle that, but then it's been like this for like the whole book series, and now I'm hating it. I can't stand it. I have to skip through some parts of her, or when it's like a chapter from her point of view, I really have to skim it because I really don't like it. That's like the only thing that I didn't really like in this book. I have to say, the whole world, as I mentioned in my first video, I became totally in love with this whole magical world. The world building was really good. The way that they described every house, every building, every classroom, it really creates the mood. Also, there's like different territories based on the elements. And they all have like a different atmosphere or like vibe to it. It's really interesting. I like the difference between Tori and Darcy. They're both tough girls in their own different way. And in the first book, I think I hated all of the Celestial Heirs. And then I don't remember how much, spoiler coming, I don't really remember how much the relationship between Professor Orion and Darcy gets in here in the first book, but I remember falling in love with Orion from the beginning. From when they describe him in the bar where he meets Tori, from then on. Only he's kind of like a really abusive, mean teacher. So as a teacher, I'm not a fan of him. But the person itself, I like a dark, morally grey person, vampire. On top of that, I love vampires. So I think Professor Orion is definitely my favorite character in this series. Or it was in the first book. And then Tori's badass as well, but her mouth gets her in trouble a lot of the time. And then Darcy can be like too sweet sometimes, but they're all really great. Except Diego. Diego is really like a meek boy. Oh, that reminds me, I forgot to mention. Aside from the fact that they're fae, there's like all these different orders of magical creatures you can be. As I said, there are like dragon shifters, vampires, werewolves, cyclopses, harpies, all kinds of mythical beings. The twins don't know what they are. Like sometimes you'll notice when you're a kid in what order you're in, but sometimes it comes later, it develops more later on, and in their case they don't have a clue what order they are, so they get enrolled in order enhancement classes, I think they're called, which is they basically get dumped or they join a group of a specific order. Let's say this day they join the werewolves and they hang out with the werewolves and do typical werewolf things to see if it triggers something inside of them, makes them happy or whatever, if they feel connected to them in a way. And so they do that with every order there is basically, and they go to these group things, but they never really felt a connection to any of them, which raises the question, what the hell are they? Something else. The whole idea and like the separating students in houses, and it really gave me Harry Potter vibes. As I said in my first video, I didn't read the Harry Potter books. I think I only read the 7th one, the last one. But based on the movies I saw, obviously, you know, I know that there are different houses. And the fact that it's like a magical academy, they learn spells, they learn to control their powers and stuff. This is a really great fantasy book. Also, there are steamy scenes. I don't remember if they already happen in the first book or not, but it gets steamy sometimes, and the scenes are written pretty well, in my opinion. Other than that, yeah, it's kind of like a... Sometimes it's dark, sometimes it's a little bit more heavy, so I would say like a dark romance, bully romance, fantasy book. That's how I would categorize it. I'm assuming if you've been watching this far that either you have read the book and you wanted to hear my review or my opinion on it, or maybe you weren't really planning on reading the book itself, but you're intrigued by the idea of the book, so you've been listening to what it's all about. But maybe there are also people who are interested in reading the book series, but they don't mind spoilers. Either way, maybe I've influenced some people to start reading the book series. It's really good. I can only recommend it. As I said in my other video, I wished I had read this series earlier. I've become pretty obsessed with it. I've read book after book, which is now resulting in my memory being a bit unclear and of like where book 1 stops and the other one begins, because for me I just read it like in one big swoop or whatever. The first book is around 400 pages, but the series in its all, for me at least, it's a really big series. The books are really long and they get longer with every book. But if that doesn't scare you, go ahead, read the book series. I can only recommend it. It's really, really great. That's it basically for this video. So that's what The Awakening is all about. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book, what your thoughts are. Did you agree with me on some of the parts I said? Maybe you liked some other aspects of the book, or did you dislike some other aspects of the book? Let me know in the comments what you found from this book that you read. Or if you haven't read it, maybe comment why you might want to read it. I'll see you in my next video, which will be about the second book, and that's called Ruthless Fae. So I'll see you in that video. Bye guys!
Kunnen jullie stoppen met roepen?